Well, good evening. Welcome to the Community Development Committee meeting for February. I'm looking at the minutes from last month, from February 2022. We'd like the roll, please.
Dan Hansen.
Here.
Ed Schochner.
Present.
Judy Ochterhoff.
Here.
Scott Counter.
Present.
Sean Anderson. Not
I
present.
haven't heard from him. Don't know.
Thank you.
All right. Concerning the minutes, does anybody have any additions or corrections, or if seeing none, I'd like to just consider them approved. Okay, minutes are approved. That being said, we're going to have a public hearing on the floodplain ordinance update. Brett Woodrow will talk to us about that.
Good evening, Chair Hansen and committee. I do have a presentation available for the committee or citizens if needed, but it's the same as it was last month. So I don't know if you want me to go through that here tonight.
I'll tell you what I'd like to hear, if you don't mind, because this is a public record, the video of this meeting, is a summary.
Okay.
So I'd like to hear about the high points.
Yep.
And if you don't mind.
Got it right there. Okay, so this is our Chapter 18 Floodplain Zoning public hearing. I'll just give you brief information about floodplain in the county. There's approximately 2,300 acres of floodplain in the unincorporated rural towns of the county. There's approximately 800 buildings that show up through our aerial photography and LiDAR. This land is valued at $135 million for buildings and land. And the floodplain actually consists of two types of floodplain, floodway and flood fringe. Uses in the floodway are non-structural. Floodway is really the river channel, not the areas that expand beyond the channel. So that's the floodway, and then the flood fringe is the areas that get flooded beyond the channel. Uses in the flood fringe are limited and require flood proofing and or flood insurance. So our ordinance rewrite objectives are to repeal Chapter 17.4, the Floodplain Overlay District, and recreate it as a separate Chapter 18 that complies with the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resource statutory changes and language in the model floodplain ordinance. The DNR works with FEMA to create a model floodplain ordinance. When FEMA does anything different or makes changes, the DNR updates the ordinance. We want to improve our CDD staff interpretation, consistency, and then also formatting with our Chapter 15 and Chapter 16. And it's important that we have a modern floodplain ordinance for continued participation in the National Flood Insurance Program and eligibility for disaster relief. So I'll quick give you a summary of what's different. Public and private campground standards were moved from the floodway district to the general standards. They're still allowed in the floodway and flood fringe, the same as they were in our current ordinance, the same as they are DNR. We just moved where they're at in the ordinance so that it was consistent with DNR and other counties. Hydraulic standards were clarified. Some standards for development in the flood fringe were clarified. Non-conforming uses, we added language about expanded definitions and modifications. I'll get into that. Variances for non-conforming structures in flood fringe were removed. We had some language in our old ordinance to allow a variance for a smaller property, and that is not in either FEMA or DNR. We clarified variances on lots less than 1/2 acre. In our existing ordinance, we said that variances could only be done on lots less than 1/2 acre. We removed that because a variance could apply to a larger lot. A half acre is really kind of a standard, though, and something that we should be looking at when we do allow variances, or the Board of Adjustment should be looking at. A large thing that was added was hydrologic studies. A large section was added for that, and then we've added an administrative section for our standalone ordinance. So I can just go through some of these changes. The public and private campground I already highlighted. These hydraulic standards we had in our ordinance, 0.01 feet. So that would actually allow a little bit of increase, and the language is causing any increase. So if we wanted a hard number there, it would be 0.00, no increase. So that was a change that was required by the DNR. Standards for development in the flood protection elevation. We had other floodproofing measures may be approved if the elevations of existing streets or sewer lines make compliance, so that was taken out. It does exist in another spot in the ordinance, though, but it was just clarification. Accessory structures, we had an allowance for an accessory structure which is not connected to the principal structure and which is less than 600 square feet in size or valued at less than 10,000 may be constructed with its lowest floor no more than 2 feet below the regional flood elevation. So these are for accessory structures. That was for a very small accessory structure. That was removed by the DNR's review of our ordinance. Non-conforming uses and structures, expanded definitions. The words modification and addition were added to our ordinance, or expanded, alteration, maintenance, and then we had to further define those, actually what they meant within the body of the ordinance versus just the definition section. So that we added that. We did not include that definition in our chapter 17. Those are important when we analyze the structure for additions beyond 50% of the value, so you can't do additions or modifications associated with value. So our current ordinance, chapter 17.4, did not include a section on maintenance, so there's a lot of information here about maintenance. No maintenance on a per event basis to a non-conforming structure, any structure with a non-conforming use, the cost of which would equal or exceed 50%. So this is important because it actually defines maintenance up here. Painting, decorating, paneling, those are different than major alterations. So those are important additions from the DNR. Variances for non-conforming structures in the flood fringe were removed because we had this little piece right here. We could allow a variance that would be granted if the structure or the addition did not exceed 60 square feet in combination with other previous modifications that needed to be removed to meet DNR standards and other county standards around us. We had a large section for hydrologic studies, and I'm going to quick bop out. I didn't want to put this into the presentation because it's a long section, but just to give you a taste of it, starts right here, hydraulic and hydrologic studies, and it goes into a lot of detail about hydrology, hydraulic modeling, the different types of analysis that needs to be done for different flood zones, different models. Quite an extensive section that was added that is in the DNR model ordinance. Back here, back, thank you. Okay. Variances on less than 1/2 acre were clarified. In our existing ordinances, we had a section, variances can only be granted for lots that are less than 1/2 acre and are contiguous to existing structures constructed below the regional flood elevation. And so now we have removed that because those variances could be allowed in circumstances, extra special circumstances on lots that are greater than 1/2 acre. So that was changing our ordinance. And then we added some information about the expiration of permits and variances, again, to match the DNR model and FEMA. Additional information about adjustments may increase risk to life and property, and flood insurance premiums could increase up to $25 per $100 of coverage. In our existing ordinance, we just said it may result in increased flood insurance premiums. We had to specifically define that like statute did, and then we also did that for penalties and enforcement. So that's a quick overview, highlight of what the changes were. The next steps would be the county board action, hopefully. Then the Chapter 18 floodplain goes into effect on that county board adoption. We send a certified copy of the ordinance to the DNR for final review, and we get a formal approval letter from the Wisconsin DNR. Then the DNR actually sends a copy to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, to FEMA. And I do have one staff comment that I would like to make for the public hearing. Staff comment. Here we go. In reviewing the ordinance and one of the questions that had arisen, I'd like to make a change to the flood fringe standards for development. Right here under 18.415C, notwithstanding section 18.415(2)A, which points back to here, this is supposed to point back to B. Notwithstanding this section, a basement or crawl space floor may be placed at the regional flood elevation. So that would be one change. It just was a typo missed in the structure of the list.
All right. Thank you. Sir, did you come to make a comment regarding this? Very good. Welcome. Glad you're here. Then we'll close the public hearing at this time, and we will move into our business items. Well, let me ask one, before I go into the business items, I forgot to open public comment. I didn't turn my head far enough. Did you want to say anything at all, sir? Because you're the only member of the public here. I'll just give you a chance to say hi. All right, here ends public comment. Moving on to business items. Number 1, an ordinance repealing Chapter 17 and referring the Chapter 18 to the county board. Entertain a motion.
So move. Correct. I just wasn't going to read everything aloud. The so move is easier.
Needs to be done. All right, do we have a second? Scott seconded it?
I'll second it.
All right, any discussion?
How long did it take you to do this?
The model was there, we had the model in a Word document. It was somewhat cut and paste, but making sure links like that were correct.
Yeah.
Bringing it to our staff for review, bringing it here. You know, it took several months, but I mean, not more, yeah, several months.
Okay.
Scott?
Brett, there is just one thing I wanted to make sure that
Yep.
we addressed while we were doing this. Everything that you worked on with this was basically to take things from the FEMA and from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources regulations and then incorporate them into a ordinance for St. Croix County. And the way this has been drafted is basically it's completely influenced by them, and there aren't any additional restrictions or things that are being done by St. Croix County. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, we are following the model, the DNR model ordinance, and through review of other counties, theirs follows the model just like ours does.
That's good to know. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, let's put it to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. That passes unanimously. Moving on, the next business item, the Town of Troy rezoning, and John will give us a little presentation.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. The next item before you tonight is a rezoning request from the town of Troy. Under state statute, even though the town of Troy has their own zoning ordinance and their own rezoning process, the county board still has to approve those zoning ordinances. So that is zoning changes, so that is why this is before you tonight. Specifically, we're talking about 40 acres in the town of Troy. I have a location map up on the screen. It's at the southwest quadrant of Man Valley Drive and Carlson Lane. It's a 40-acre section highlighted in red. And under the town's current zoning, it's zoned exclusive ag, which pretty much limits development to 1 unit per 35 acres. The rezoning is seeking a designation of ag residential. And under the town land division requirements, that would allow them to do a subdivision of residential densities. And under the town regulations, they would call that a farm plan. And so a farm plan is where 60% of that 40 acres would remain vacant under a conservation easement as open space or protected farmland areas. And then the 40% of that 40 acres would be allowed to be developed with residential lots. And so we double checked all of the hearing notices, the minutes that are included in your packet. They appear to meet the publication requirements, the meeting requirements. We also double checked the comprehensive land use plans, the future land use plan maps of both the town and the county. And both of our future land use plans, along with the town's, support residential development in that area. So based on the submittal requirements, the review of the future land use plan maps, staff would recommend approval of this request. There is a draft resolution in your packet beginning on page 48. That would be before the committee for consideration tonight. The total parcel size is 39.6 acres, just a hair under 40 acres. That concludes the overview.
All right. Any questions for John? No? Okay, Scott.
Apologize, I didn't pre-read the resolution, but is there anything in there that refers to any extraterritorial plat review authority of the city of River Falls? And is that anything that needs to, is that futurely going to be addressed, or is it already addressed in here?
Based on our review process, the county just reviews the rezoning process of the town. We don't get into the requirements that they have with the extraterritorial. So our review is just limited to statute 60.623, that we need to approve their zoning request or review their zoning request and either recommend support or denial.
Okay, so that's the none of our beeswax clause.
Based on past reviews of other rezoning requests we've done for towns, we haven't really referenced that.
Oh, good. Any other questions? Can we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend rezoning from exclusive ag to ag residential, 39.6 acres for Glenn and Georgia Holberg.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further conversation? Let's put it to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. Our third business item is a resolution of commitment and support for the Wisconsin Department of Transportation 2022 to 2026 Transportation Alternative Program TAP grant, and that's exciting. Who's talking about this one? John.
So a couple of months ago, we met with the Community Development Committee to share an update on the anticipated application of the Highway 35 trail. That application was due at the end of January. We did get it in a couple weeks early. As part of that process, we have until April to submit a resolution of support from the county board. And part of that resolution would support and endorse the county's commitment to the 20% match of the grant program. And I'm just going to quickly review and highlight the kind of the overall project and where we're at right now. So the phase one that you see on the map, that's kind of highlighted in the orange color from North Hudson to Old County 35. That's the grant that we obtained back in 2020. That project right now is currently in the design phase. It is funded. We hope to have the design complete by the end of this year, with anticipated construction in later 2023. And that segment would be a 10-foot off-road trail of 1.1 miles, again, to Old County 35. The Phase 2 grant, that is the subject of the resolution tonight, would continue where Phase 1 left off and go 1.28 miles up County Road 10 and along County Road V for a little bit until it went to River Road. That section would be 10 feet off trail until it got to County Road V. And then from County Road V eastward to the corner of Willow River State Park would be on-road striping. So that would be part of the grant process for that. That section would be about 0.98 miles. And so the resolution tonight would be committing the county to endorsing that project, but also committing to the funding of that project. Again, real quickly, the Phase 3 future phase would get us up to the St. Croix River Crossing Loop Trail, where it would then access the bridge crossings, either the historic lift bridge or the new bridge crossing. The purple shows existing trail, and then that would connect into the Twin Cities via the Browns Creek State Trail. Going back up to the memo that was provided as part of your packet tonight, just to clarify that the cost estimate for this project was $502,250. The 20% county match would be $100,450. And then here's the draft resolution that we would send in pending county board approval next month. Any questions from the committee?
Judy?
Out of curiosity, where is the money going to be coming from? Out of community development, fund balance, or where?
The KIP has primarily been funded through fund balance transfers. So when we
I
have
forgot
a,
about the KIP, sorry
Yep.
about that.
yep, so that's where it should be coming from. That's where we'd plan on funding it from.
And we've allotted that in the KIP?
Is it currently in the KIP, or it'll be a project that we'll add?
The
'Cause
project
it's
is
several years
there,
out.
but it, just like the previous one, we had, and I believe it actually says that in the resolution, funded, matching funding would only be allocated in the KIP if the grant is awarded.
Ah, okay.
And that's
Yep.
what we usually say in all of our resolutions, if we have a pending or a hoped-for grant application
Okay.
out there.
Thanks.
And then this is just a more detailed map with some of the aerial photography. Again, everything in red would be the 10-foot off-road trail facility. As you see, it comes out to County Road V. It follows County Road V for a little bit, and then once it hits River Road, we would transition that to an on-road bike trail with striping. That would take us to the edge of Willow River State Park at the Trout Brook Road intersection. And then currently within Willow River State Park, they are doing bike improvements in this part of the park, a combination of mountain bike trails as well as regular bicycle traffic. A lot of that has been done this year, but they will continue to improve that area over the next year. And we kind of do have a commitment from Willow River State Park that if this project proceeds, we'll be able to tie in to Willow River State Park with this project, which would be a pretty nice thing to be able to do.
Out of curiosity, is River Road, the traffic is low enough to warrant on-road?
Yes.
Okay.
The ultimate plan is things, as the county continues to grow, the ultimate plan would be to try and move this to an off-road facility. But for now, the average daily traffic volumes would support an on-road facility. We had been working with the town of St. Joe to get their authorization and permission to do so, and we did get the town board to pass a resolution, or minutes, documentation in their meeting minutes that would support our efforts.
For on-road or off-road?
For the on-road for now. Everything that would be in blue on the map.
Out of curiosity, any idea of a timeline for when the off-road would happen?
So based on DOT timing, we wouldn't find out until July or August if the award was granted. And then we have to get into grant agreements that would take place fall and winter. We'd go through an RFP for design process getting into next year. So I'm thinking it's going to be a couple years, about 2 years.
For switching the River Road area from on-road to off-road?
Yes.
Okay.
We would do that in combination with the construction of the off-road trail.
John, did you actually hear exactly what Judy asked? She didn't ask when it would be constructed, but when it would be, the traffic volumes would justify
Oh, I apologize for that.
off-road, and that we do not have
We
an
do not
answer
know.
to.
I apologize. We do not know that
Yeah.
at this time.
Far enough out in the future so that, okay.
Yeah, I don't think he heard you quite right. Sorry.
Could be. Thank you.
I could suggest that as we grow, that road, I think there's room to widen it, and they might be able to put a on-road bike lane. It's something to think about. It hadn't been talked about even in the plan, I don't think, the bike ped plan, but it's something for that one stretch to look at.
The town has a adopted bicycle ped plan, and they kind of did an analysis of River Road, and there are a number of options that could be done there. They could expand the existing pavement. The on-road option was discussed. And then they also looked at the possibility of an off-road facility, but that would necessitate some acquisition or agree of purchase to some additional land on the south side of River Road.
And
And that has not taken place.
and in its current state, it has 3-foot shoulders right now? Is
Yes.
that correct?
Correct.
Any other questions for John? All right, can we get a motion, please?
I'd make a
Resolution-
motion to,
Resolution of commitment and support on page 60, I believe.
page 60.
Resolution actually is on page 60.
68?
No, it's only 2 pages.
What page do you have? My numbers are off.
60 and 61.
Yeah, page 60, back at page 60. So somebody needs to make the motion.
It's working on it, but I can read it. Do you want me to read the,
Nope, just move.
so it was on page 61? Well, 60 is a resolution, yeah. And we don't know the resolution number yet. So I'd make a motion to approve or recommend to the county board the resolution of commitment and support for the Wisconsin Department of Transportation WSDOT 2022 through 2026 Transportation Alternatives Program grant application to construct the Highway 35 off-road trail Phase 2.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Very good. Any further conversation? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next, we have a conversation about Parks Capital Improvement Funding for Glen Hills and Acre Blufflands. And Ellen, are you leading this conversation? Ken?
I provided background information and a list of our currently identified in the capital improvement plan projects. Actually, I take that back. The Acre Blufflands is not in the capital improvement project because it was just, the master plan was just approved. Those three would be put in possibly this coming year. And the rest of it is the identified capital improvement projects that are in the KIP for future years. And we also provided information, background information, as a reference to the summary, that this was a nice little summary that was in the Acre Blufflands document and lists all different kinds of funding sources for discussion. And then there's some information about how our parks usage and revenues have been trending upward, and some information about some of our anticipated revenues, for instance, from Acre Blufflands, the new park, that we presented back in November, December. And discussion.
Thank you. Yep. So that being said, this is put on the agenda so that we could have an opportunity to talk about this in public in a transparent way. What do we want to do next? And it's sort of an open-ended conversation. A couple of committee members said, what are we doing? How are we going to raise funds? What's the next step? And I thought it would be a good idea, as Ellen said, this is what I can do. I can put together the information, put it in the packet, and let you hack it out, talk about it, and see what you think. So that's what we've done. I've read through this, and there's everything that's here is what we've talked about before. And I wanted to get your ideas of what our next steps are going to be, because we need $1.6 million for camper cabins in Glen Hills. We need at least $10 million to get going on Acre Blufflands, and that's just for phase one. I'm just wondering if my colleagues here have any thoughts on what our next best steps are going to be.
And it's, you're going to have a new board, so it's going to all have to be explained again, and you've got to emphasize, in my opinion, the increase in usage, and that the best way to make money is to spend money, which is ironic, but if you want people to go to the parks and use them, you're going to have to make them attractive, and so that people want to use them, so that and one last thing with the Acre Blufflands, there were a lot of comments about people concerned with hunting. We don't have a choice at this point because we use DNR money, but the quicker we develop it, the potential to limit hunting grows. I mean, if we take 20 years to develop it, like we have some of our other parks, who knows what can happen in 20 years with a lot of hunting there. But if we can get it quick, and hopefully hunting will be limited and it will be safer. And I think those type of things have to be stressed to the public and stressed to the new board. I mean, but the main thing is, and it's also, Ken, if I remember right, you said a bond of $10 million is about 30 cents on a $100,000 value?
Oh, yeah, not anywhere close to that even. It's a lot less. It'd be about.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it'd be
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 cents maybe.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, and
a
that's
lot
another
less.
thing to stress too then, is the value for what we're getting for what the money that we may have to bond for. I mean, we just have to emphasize the positives, because I have no idea what the new board's gonna be like. But some people may not want to spend even $1 on the parks, and we have to hopefully make them understand and realize the value of parks. This board, even though it's not going to be the same board, when we had our, all the committees of the whole about the importance, natural resources was way up there. And I think natural resources doesn't happen without us spending some money. And I think that has to be emphasized also. I mean, those are just a few general comments, because I won't be around, so.
One reason I wanted to have this conversation today is because I wanted you to weigh in, Judy. And I'll miss having you around. What do you think, Sean?
I am by no means against any really, not right now at least, any of these park projects. I am just don't want to take out $12 million, and I don't think it's worth taking out $12 million in bonds. Well, more than that. Well, that would be almost enough just for Acre, but to complete these projects. I like the idea of doing 1 or 2 of these a year, as we have extra fund balance to do them, and pay cash for them, or soliciting private or public donations.
Fair enough. Thank you. Ed?
Well, the Eckert Parkland, it does no good just to have it sit there. I think at some point, we're gonna have to bond at least the $10 million, get the main part of the park up and running, and then we go from there. But it's like building half a road. You can't do that. You either build the park or you don't. So how long are we gonna sit on it? I think we just need to bite the bullet and at least spend the 10 million and get it started.
Scott, do you want to weigh in today?
Yes, it's a lot of money. But I have to say that in my thoughts with it too is, number one, people that live in that area do have concerns over the hunting issues, and that's something that for the future we do need to consider. Their safety and things, and the liability that we take on as being the owners of the property there. The idea of putting out the money to do this, I guess I would agree with Ed on this. You can't do this partially. If you're going to do that project, you got to go full-hearted into it and get it done. Because part of the issue with this is you also have to deal with, once this is underway, even if it's partially done, we're still put into a position that we're going to have personnel to monitor the place and take care of it, and snow removal and all the maintenance issues that come along with it. And so we really need the completed project, so we have the financial means through the operations to make this come to fruition, where we can afford to pay people to do that part and not come to the county to try to hire on more employees for something that we don't have an ability to balance the budget on.
Oh, thank you. I think everybody has a valid point here. I'd like to point out that the ROI on the camper cabins is 5 years, and then they're generating revenue for the park. And that's I'm about right on that, is it right? 5 years?
I'm not sure about if we build, how would I put this? When we gave you that, it was based on the students, working with schools, and even the cost we did for the second one was very, very reasonable and a lot less. So I would say that to some extent it might be a little longer, but on the other hand, I think that's going to be a very quick turnaround. I really do. So, but if you build it with a contractor, it's obviously more money, so.
Well, there is going to be a significant return on investment with that particular feature of the park, and I'm know that some people have had a little bit of fun at my expense talking about camper cabins and my desire to get them built, and that's okay. I really wanted to see a revenue stream created within the park that's dependable and providing a service that people really demand. So I'm going to be especially looking something in Glen Hills Park that we can generate revenue with and fulfill the demand for services that people have expressed that they really want. And that's where I'll leave this conversation right now, and we'll pick it up during the next term if I'm lucky enough to be here. And I thank you all for participating with this little exercise. Yes, sir. Oh, you're welcome to, yeah. That's really good news. Thank you, Ken. Any other questions for Ken? If you didn't do such a good job, we'd have better questions for you.
Oh, and I want to clarify, 10 million is 5 cents per thousand.
Okay. That's good. Now we'll move into the finance report.
Yeah, so the financial report that's in your packet is for the month of January 2022, and I can confirm that everybody is under budget. It's an accounting joke since it's only January. It didn't go over well at admin either, it's okay. But looking through the budget, really, when we look back at last year, when we look at the county overall, we have finished in the black. I don't have an exact number yet. Whenever we finish in the black, though, that's a good thing. That's money is going to the KIP also. In January of 2022, it's really too early to tell any trends yet, but there weren't any red flags. If there were a specific question about a line item that you saw in the budget, though, I'd be happy to answer that.
Why is there red ink on the recycling overview?
So the bottom line for that, they've just spent more money in the month of January than they've been allocated 1/12 of revenue for the year. So their revenue is allocated 1/12 of it at a time. Or actually, they're probably all grant revenue, not any property tax. So they haven't received any revenues yet. So they'll show up as a negative until they've received some grant monies.
Had to ask something. All
I
right,
asked the same question.
yeah, all right. Anybody have any other questions?
Yeah.
No. Yes, Judy.
Well, this isn't about the budget. This is, well, I don't know if I should wait. No, is there anything that anybody on this committee should be aware of that's happening in the county that may cause our constituents to give us a phone call about? That's, I'm trying to phrase it so that it's open-ended. I mean, not saying it's gonna happen, but
Is this a finance question?
yeah, because it comes down to finances.
Everything's a finance question.
Yeah. Or else I can wait and ask this, I don't know, under announcements and correspondence, whichever you would prefer.
Or maybe an email to Ken.
No. It has, at this meeting.
Okay, why don't we, any skeletons, is Judy's wondering?
None that I can think of.
Okay. Announcements and correspondence, what do we have? This is exciting.
Sorry about that. Wasn't lighting up down here. So this is our newest park brochure. The reason that we made this unique brochure is because when we mail out annual passes to people, if you are at a park and there is one of our facilities that does not have an attendant, what we do is you can buy an annual or a daily or upgrade from a daily to an annual. And then, if there's no staff there to give you an annual pass, we mail them out. We do get a lot of those. We also allow people to buy them online, and we actually are selling more and more and more online passes. And so when we mail them out, we wanted to let people know, what did your pass buy? What did you get? And so this new brochure was created by our staff, by Ryan Hoagland, who does an outstanding job with all the materials, and also in close coordination with Joe Ayers, who is our GIS person and helps with the maps, and I believe Hannah Worth also helped on this. And so this is one park, or one pass, 10 parks. So I think it's a pretty cool new brochure, and it really kind of highlights our new facilities. I will point out, if you're wondering, that the two circles on the Acre Blufflands and the Wildwood Trail are not actual symbols that we have finalized for those two parks, but the other ones are all true and actual symbols that are out at the parks that we have on beautiful limestone, limestones that for entrance stones. So I think this great new brochure, and hope you guys enjoy it, giving you each a freebie. But you do have to buy a pass, and for those of you who perhaps don't end up on the county board, I hope you all do, but don't forget to buy your park pass.
So you missed the opportunity to give these park passes as Christmas presents, but
That went by.
your family all have birthdays, and you can buy them as birthday presents. I gave them as Christmas presents. It's a heck of a good Christmas present, but give them as birthday presents. People absolutely love park passes as a gift, and this is a great thing to give with it. I didn't These didn't come out for Christmas time, but.
No, unfortunately, they did not, but there's extras, and we can get you a few more if you'd like for
Yeah.
all the passes you bought.
Park passes are, people who have everything, you don't know what to get them a park pass. They will love it, especially anybody you know that fishes. We have really, really nice fishing lakes. So, I'm done advertising. Requests for future agenda items.
This goes back to before the request, okay? I made the comment, maybe I made it misstated it earlier. I'm going to ask Ellen if she has knowledge of anything that is potentially coming up in the county that us community development members should be aware of. And I don't know how to phrase it right. You know what, you know,
So I have had a few phone calls from citizens wondering about, they're hearing that there is a company proposing to put in a second. We did give you guys a presentation, and we mentioned a few months ago when we gave you a presentation on solar energy farms that we had been approached by more. We do not have an application in, but we do know that there is a solar energy firm accumulating property leases in the Ceylon, Forest, and possibly Emerald Glenwood area. That's not something that would come before this committee in the future, but if you get phone calls, please refer them to myself or to Mike Wozniak, and we would be happy to answer any questions. That's what she says.
All right. The date of the next meeting is Thursday, March 17, 2022, and that will be the last meeting of this term. It's been really nice to see you all tonight. I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you for coming.